right, now the Senate has passed a resolution asking the presidency to urgently represent to it recommendations of the 2014 National Conference so it can look into it and introduce laws that would reduce agitations for secession and restructuring.
The decision followed a motion aimed at reaffirming Nigeria's unity through means that would guarantee security, fairness and justice. Samna Sambo has the report.
The motion was moved by Senate Majority Leader Ahmad Lawan and co-sponsored by all senators in the 8th Senate, following the resurgence of separatist agitations. Senators took time to encourage citizens not to give up on Nigeria, saying what unites the country is greater than what divides it.
We must look at the possibility of reconstructing our country, of redesigning our country, and coming up with a new master plan that would address the very important challenges that we are facing in the 21st century.
If they don't believe in this country so much, they will not be everywhere investing the way they are investing. There is no part of the country that believes in this country except the Igbo people. We, yes, because we're everywhere we are.
I'm really proud to be a Nigerian. And as I stand here, my mother is Shekiri, my father is Yoruba, my mother's first husband happened to be a Rivers man. We have wives from Igbo, we have Hausa wives, and that tells you that that is the wonder of being a Nigerian.
I believe that Nigeria should be home to everybody, like the FCT is to everybody. It's the same place where we have had the highest level of marginalization, both in terms of appointments, both in terms of taking over our lands, which were for farming, but we have never issued any threat to anybody.
Senators also identified the non-teaching of the history of the Nigerian Civil War as responsible for the resurgence in agitation by several groups across the country. They want the Federal Ministry of Education to reintroduce the history of the Nigerian Civil War and the history of the nation at large. The Senate urged security agencies to arrest and prosecute all those making incendiary statements that may lead to chaos, even as they called for the 2014 Confab report to be resent to the National Assembly for consideration.
It was sent to us earlier, but we cannot revive it as it is now. The federal government do send to the National Assembly the resolution of the last Constitutional Conference for deliberation. Say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The senators also pledged to go back to their senatorial districts to preach peace. Samna Sambo, TVC News, Abuja.
Yes, indeed. What is that master plan that Nigeria needs to move forward? Well, we're looking at the call by the Senate on the presidency to release the 2014 Confab reports. Well, we have in the studio a human rights activist, Wale Okuni. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here again.
Yes, indeed. Now, so many people, including the Senate, believe that this Confab report 2014 holds the solution to, you know, the myriad of problems that Nigeria has and the agitations everywhere. Does it really hold the solution for Nigeria?
Yeah, I think it will be a step forward in solving the Nigerian national question. The Nigerian national question is constitutional and democratic in nature. That is the conflict that we have. It's acrimony and deep-seated animosity, you know, and I think embedded in those resolutions and recommendations are decisions that can help resolve that can help build confidence for the diverse peoples of Nigeria. And that has been done, and I think that taking that forward, you could also have other conference reports. There is also the People's report from the PRONACO People's National Conference led by Chief Tony Enauro, Professor Wale Soyinka. That could be added to it, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
So what gave, I remember last year, this issue of the Confab was a no-go area. The president said, as at that time, that the Confab held that ASU was on strike, about 9 million naira was used, or even more than that was spent. Yeah, 9 billion naira was spent on on the confab, that should have been used for to offset the bill of ASU. And some other people have said, don't even talk about the confab report at all. Recycle it, shred it into trash. What has changed between the last year and now?
Maybe briefing, maybe update and briefing. I had opportunity to discuss with somebody who was also very close to Mr. President after those statements were made, and at that level there were clarification, and even that person was well informed to say, oh, if that is the case, I think that, and he went to grant an interview to Guardian to say the president will look at, oh, he has been well informed. So I think that it's about briefing, it's about communication, it's about discussion and dialogue. Maybe the president must himself has been well briefed over time about the content of that constitution. Well, the process may not be too acceptable to him and the party, APC, but the content, given the necessity of this time, the urgency of this time, because necessity itself is the mother of invention. And, you know, so that may have informed the new
disposition.
Twist, or disposition.
But then again, it doesn't even look like this presidency has necessarily a new disposition to the idea of implementing the confab reports. What we've been hearing, the feelers lately, have been that the presidency still insists on its stance that the 2014 confab is not really something they want to begin to consider.
That may just be a rumor, but because nobody has spoken with Mr. President now, but you know, there could just be things flying in the media. Well, I don't know, but I think if the president is well briefed, the president may have a new disposition. But we are talking about the Senate here,
yes,
which has called for this report, and I think it's a good thing to begin to deal with our nationhood, to begin to deal.
They also have the right to pass the report. The Senate, the National Assembly has the right to pass the report. Is it?
To look at the report, they have the right to look at the report. Yes, they could also,
even if the presidency refuses to look at it.
Oh, they can look at it. Oh, there is separation of power. They can advise the executive to take a decision along the lines of that. They can look at it. They have the independent right to call for that. Even if it's not passed by the executive, they can take it from another source and deal with it. But they just want to follow proper procedure by asking the president, because I think the former president submitted that report.
It was part of the handover notes to President Buhari.
And that may have informed, so well, let us, so that we don't go and get some jaundice report, some mutilated and forged report. Let us get it direct from that. And I think that's what they are doing to be able to handle this matter.
All right, so we're going to try.
There is an urgency.
Yes, indeed.
There is an urgency for the nation to look at almost all the reports we have.
All right, well, we're going to break it down as much as we can within the time frame that is allotted to us on this show right now. But let's bring you the news update. One person has been killed and 10 others injured after a white van rammed into worshippers near a mosque in Finsbury Park, London.
The van driver, described by witnesses as a large white man who was said to have screamed, quote, "I'm going to kill all Muslims," end quote, before carrying out the attack. The British Prime Minister, Theresa May, says the incident is treated as a potential terrorist attack.
A 48-year-old man has been arrested by police, and the police say investigation is being carried out by the Counter-Terrorism Command.
It was commendable by members of the community who must have been incredibly shaken, incredibly scared and incredibly angry. And I'd like to thank them. And what it proves to me is that Londoners will act together to protect themselves, but they will do so in a way that doesn't feed into terrorist and extremist hands.
Can you give us any more detail as well about how serious the injuries are to those in hospital?
No, it's too early to say, and obviously the hospital themselves and NHS England will be updating later on the condition of the casualties. I do know at least 2 are very serious. So again, our thoughts go out to the families and their friends he must be very shaken at this time.
Are police able to talk to the perpetrator? Have they been able to interrogate him? If so, what are you hearing from?
No, that will not have happened yet. That will obviously be a priority in the investigation. As soon as he's in our custody and has been through our formal custody procedures, he will be being interviewed, obviously, as part of the investigation.
We've heard from a couple of eyewitnesses say that they saw other people in the van running away after the attack took place. And you said that there's only one perpetrator so far, that there are reports of others. How do you respond to that? What we're hearing is other people.
Right, let me be very clear at this time. That was obviously a very key line of inquiry for us, right at the start of this investigation. From what we are seeing and from what witnesses who are reporting to us, there was nobody else in the van. And it appears at this time that this attacker attacked alone. That is not to say that we are not investigating the full circumstances of how he came to be where he was. But at this point in time, there was nobody else in the van. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
At least 3 persons were killed and many injured at a fresh communal clash that started on Sunday morning in the Sardauna local government area over Taraba State.
Locals say fighting started after some youth took to the streets, destroying property and smashing vehicles. And Acting President Yemi Osinbajo has condemned agitations for the Southeast secession and the Northern Youth ultimatum to the Igbos to leave the northern states.
He described it as a violation of the laws governing Nigeria. He said this as an engagement meeting with traditional rulers from the Southeast.
He said the government is to listen to all sides and consider the reasons for the agitations with a view to being just to all persons, regardless of where they come from. And you've just been updated right there. Part of the reason why we're discussing this, the Senate recommendation to the presidency to submit the Confab report's findings as an executive bill. Olawale Okuni is a human rights activist and he's our guest this morning. Well, so many issues, so many recommendations in this 2014 Confab, from restructuring to 18 new states to all kinds of things. Local government autonomy, or local government not even supposed to be or should not be a third tier of government, leaving it to states to decide as many local governments as they want. Talk to us about the aspects of this confab, that you think government should urgently, using your own word, begin to tackle as quickly as possible.
Well, that's the issue of self-determination or autonomy for the federating unit or federating states, which was raised there, and that is why local government was abolished, so that the federating state can be in control of their local areas, administration of their local area. Local government should not be something that is legislated upon by the federal government, in which case they come to the backyard of the state and then begin to rule the state, and that is no federalism. So I think that that will help us, because what the Igbos are saying essentially is that they want autonomy to be able to run their own affair, take control of their resources, and pay royalty or tax to the center, which is federalism. And I think that is what, and I think that the conference also alluded to that. You see, even the presidency itself can set up, just like we decided on June 12th, a panel for truth, justice, and reconciliation. And that panel can begin to drive all these processes, get all the report, etc., rather than what the acting president is doing at the moment, selectively discussing with leaders of the North and leaders of South. That would not help us. You need to take it holistically, because we are all Biafrans. Somebody wrote that, said we are all Biafrans. That is, even people in Yoruba land also feel the same pain. I mean, things are not well run.
And the Niger Delta feels the same thing.
The constitution is not the constitution of the peoples of this country. It is a decree by the Absalami military junta, foisted, and that is a mere law. It's a mere law which will not be acceptable to the stakeholders. You must understand this thing, and I think Nigerian authorities must understand what a constitution is. There is a difference between a law. A government can make a law, a parliament can make a law, but it is the people directly, through their representative in a constituent assembly or through a referendum, that can give a constitution. And a law can only emanate from the provision of constitution given by the people. So
Okay.
they are not two things. People mix it up. They don't understand. And when you don't
So
understand,
as it is now, we
and
don't have
you
a
run
working
government, you run.
constitution.
Pardon?
As it is now, we don't have a working constitution.
We don't have what is acceptable, popular people's constitution. But we have something that we are working with. Okay. I mean, at the moment, because I mean, you can't run without nothing. So we are managing and panabitting and amending.
Somebody
and that cannot carry the spirit
somebody
of the
said
stakeholders.
it's a Molue rather than a BRT bus.
Well, that's what you are. But you
Okay.
see, you cannot continue to panabit a decree, a law. You know, it will not get the acceptability, the popularity. It's supposed to, the legitimacy. It is supposed to have. These are the issues. We need to educate people who run government. They to know that, look, it's not about being a lawyer.
All right, let's look at
It's about knowing what nation building is, how to build a nation.
Let's look at
I don't think Nigerian authorities
some other
know
recommendations.
that.
Okay, let's look at some other recommendations. Look at the revenue formula sharing, for instance. What's the Confab is recommending to have 42% go to the federal government, 42.5 to federal government, 35 to states, and 22.5 to LGAs. Is that acceptable in the Nigeria of today, talking about our revenue generation?
Well, I think there's an oversight there again, because we're talking about LGA, maybe LGA that will be created by states.
Yeah.
You know, because the first resolution take precedence over this, which says that abolish local government.
Well, okay.
It then means that revenue will be shared between federal government and the states.
Okay.
And that is what will happen. Well, I think that is somewhat acceptable to a large extent, because what goes to the local government will still have to go to the federating state by implication of that decision. And I think that will help us, you know, mellow down some of this agitation that people want to leave Nigeria. It is even the right of people, if they are able to get plebiscite or referendum democratically, clearly, to live anywhere, Brexit. It's peacefully, you don't have to fight a war. If they are agreed, and if a plebiscite and referendum confirms that democratically this set of people have decided to live, so be it. That is their democratic right. You don't take it away from anybody. You don't force any marriage. If you force that marriage, it will become catastrophic and disastrous. Any marriage that's so, let us engage. Let us
we'll go on a break now. When we come back, I want you to tell us why we are afraid of a divorce. Why do you think there shouldn't be a divorce, or why we are afraid of a divorce in the first instance? If we say we don't want this marriage anymore,
or how should that divorce be if it is
happen.
desirable at all? We'll take a break and return shortly. Stay with us. All right, thanks for remaining with us on TVC Breakfast this Monday morning edition. Yes, should there be a divorce or not? What would be the cost of a divorce if it does happen? So many questions surrounding that. Now, that question actually came from you.
You have to take it back to me. Okay, so please can you answer the question?
Well, divorce, nobody desires a divorce, not even God.
He hates it.
He doesn't endorse divorce.
Yeah.
And let's come to human formation now, Nigeria. It's not desirable because you will lose a whole lot of respect and status in the Committee of Nations. You will lose a lot. Your bargaining power in international politics, international relations. The balance of power will drop, and then there are a lot of things you will lose.
But that doesn't mean you won't survive anyway. It might drop, but you will survive.
You will, it likely, and that is why it's not desirable. But then it's also worse than a forced marriage that is very, very violent, and where people are dying based on the marriage every day. You hear people died here, die. We are losing so much of our resources through this forced marriage. So it's better we look at the marriage again so that we don't continue to lose. So it's not desirable really, and that's why people are saying let us restructure.
And go for counseling.
Let's restructure this marriage in such a way that there can be balance of power, balance, equity, fairness through the Constitution. You can only do this via the Constitution. There is no other route.
Let's take it to the people then, find out what they're saying on social media. And Foladele will be leading the charge. Good morning, Foladele. How are you?
Good morning, Ngozi. Good morning. Good morning, Kolavi. I'm kidding. Good morning, Busulami. I wanted to be like Maya and call you a different name. Good morning, Olawale. Okay, so is the implementation of the Confab report of 2014 the way to go? Let's find out what Nigerians are saying. Ms. Kazola says, for the fact that the Senate has called on the FG to submit the 2014 Confab report for consideration is very heartwarming. I'm impressed. Patty Vieira says, a step in the right direction, or is it done to calm nerves? Who knows? Joe Fab says, I trust at Bukola Saraki to do the right thing. Kanaya OAP says, you just have to give it to the Saraki-led Senate. They're doing a good job. Amaka Eko says, what's Confab report? Did the people vote for that? We demand hashtag referendum. Let the people decide. Hashtag Biafra referendum. Coming back to that. Yeah. Romanus Godwin says, they are on their own. No more Confab report. We stand on the freedom of Biafra. Hashtag Biafra referendum, rather. Nothing more. Buchi says, bringing up the Confab reports by the Senate is a welcome development. If the decisions in the report are implemented, equity is sure. And the last one here, from UGCU, he says, the agitations might just end up making Nigeria a better place. Interesting way to look at it. Maybe eventually, at the end of all this, Nigeria will become a better place. But okay, so we've talked about how a lot of people are saying the Confab report, bring it back, let's implement it. But you have a couple of people here saying, push away the Confab report. Let's talk about a referendum. We want a chance to vote. We want a chance to decide if we want to remain in this marriage. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think it's their right, and I think it's the right of those people. Even in the UN, there's a resolution, a convention for the right of indigenous people to self-determination. The world has accepted that. They want to self-determine whether they want to be autonomous and alone as a country, or within, it is their right to do. It is their democratic right. It doesn't need to
so should we adopt the right, this right that you speak of? Should we consider a referendum?
The referendum specifically.
Yes, specifically, should people be allowed to vote and decide whether they want to remain?
Why not? They may, at the end of the day, you may just have majority saying, no, we don't want referendum. We don't want Biafra.
But what if majority says yes?
Well, it doesn't make any difference. It's democratic. It doesn't, I mean, if I say I don't want some, I don't want it. I may go and then realize that, oh, it was better for me within Nigeria. Or can I renegotiate my autonomy within Nigeria? Yes. So let people be free to take it. It's not by force. It's not.
But why is the government not even considering the call for a referendum? It's not even considering it at all.
Yes, because it was a culture taken from colonial Britain, which foisted this on us in 1914.
Well, the same British now have gone the way of a referendum and come up with Brexit.
And then we should look at that. And I think we should begin to look at that and learn from that. That is cultural advancement. We also should need, we are not in military situation or a military climb now. We are a democratic, so to say, culture now. So we should really take democratic steps. If the people want, let's try it, let's test it. They may fail. Some people want Odua Republic. Some people want Biafra. Some people want Niger Delta, and so on and so forth.
Can we trust the referendum to be free and fair?
That's the point. The underlying factor there is trust. If indeed a referendum is carried out.
Yes, supervised by the UN.
Okay.
Yes, it may be well done, and then people may just vote to say
we have
want to remain
international
in Nigeria.
observers for some elections, and they come out inconclusive.
Pardon?
I said we have international observers for some elections in Nigeria, and sometimes we have issues of inconclusive results.
That's conducted. Fine. Conducted and assisted by Nigerian experts. This can be done. It doesn't need
Of course, I think it's a topic for another day that we can't successfully conduct an election on our own without it ending up inconclusive.
I mean, you can say that
for another day.
No, INEC can even do that. I have faith in INEC. I have faith in INEC that they can conduct
a referendum.
But what people have said is that they want an independent body to help supervise this so that it's not manipulated by, because those in INEC are also Nigerians, so that they can build confidence in the process. That is what they are saying. But I think that it's a democratic right. And though I don't want Nigeria dismembered.
Yes, the acting president.
I do not want, but I think that I can't take away your democratic right.
The acting president has said that much, that we are better together than apart.
Very well. That is correct.
Separate. So if we get that fundamental right, it shouldn't. It should really in itself take away the fear of whether we should restructure or not, shouldn't it? Now, let's even look at some of the other recommendations. Forms of government, modified presidential system, and homemade model of government combining the presidential and parliamentary systems of government.
And that is trying to address our fears in Nigeria and our problems. It's addressing this problem with system of government. The presidential system, humongous, expensive, distant from the people, distant from the parliament. So you have a model in which ministers are taken from the parliament, the vice president is taken from the parliament. It makes it more economical. It makes it cheaper to run and transparent. A parliamentary system would have been ideal for this country. It would have been ideal, so that people won't just become overlords over the people who elected them. Because in Nigeria, what we run is big man rule. What we have, the moment you are elected into government, you become rich instantly, even if you are poor.
Even if it's a local council.
Yes, and so what is thriving in Nigeria, the only sector, is politics. So everybody wants to go there, and it's do or die.
Apart
because
from
of the way you have structured it. So you have to restructure governance architecture in such a way that it will not be too juicy to warrant do or die politics. People die because of it. It is only those who have interest to serve that will then go, because they know that you can't get rich through it.
Well, let's look at some other recommendations. That is to decentralize the state. You mentioned politics as a lucrative trade, and I chipped in that kidnapping too is becoming very lucrative in the country. Something must give. Either implement the recommendation of the Confab or not, the issue of decentralization of the Nigerian police is germane if we must curb the issue of kidnapping in the country.
That is crucial in federalism. That is federalism. Not just policing. The constitution must be decentralized. The state of federalism must have their own constitution so that the governors themselves don't become overlord. Because if the governors don't also have constitution guiding them, they could do anything and then they create a fiefdom. But in the state, there must be constituent assembly and referendum to adopt how they also want to be governed, which can be in consonance with the federal constitution, just like we have done in the First Republic. That is very essential. It's not just police, so that police also can be guided by the state constitution. Yes. You don't just have policing without a legal framework with which you guide them. So there must, and I think that conference also accept. I was the one who essentially moved that to say, look, if you do decentralization without a constitution for the state, then you are going to have dictators all over the place as governors. So the constitution of the people will mean that the people have agreed to a set of framework or ground norm to guide the state themselves, so that the governors and even police do not become overlords, behemoth over the people. So that is how to go in the federalism. But the one we run today is still military. You have just one command structure, one big federal government that is very indolent and likely to be corrupt. Just say for the fact that you have somebody who is well-intentioned, with all the well-intention or good intention of PMB, you see how the conspiratorial political class are messing up.
The structure of the country is what has given room to
corruption.
Corruption,
and
yes. So many other things.
There is no way you can. I have said it, and I want to be challenged. You cannot exterminate corruption under this structure. I want to be challenged by any scholar. You have this structure, and you are doing anti-corruption. It's failed. I have met Professor Isesage on this matter, and I told him that if you don't restructure this thing, it's a waste of time, because corruption will fight you back. Corruption will have money to fight you, and then the loopholes are just there. And then again, people have alibi for destructive agitation. They can just say it's not working, I don't believe in it. Because how do you want me to respect a constitution I was not part of making?
In the first place. Now,
how do you want me to be loyal to that constitution, to a military? I'm just being loyal to a military government by implication. So I must be involved. I must, through my representative. I cannot directly do, but I must go to vote for a representative to go to a constituent assembly with full constituent power, and then I must give him mandate to say this is what we want from our area.
All right, let's look at two
and that's the way to create a democratic structure.
We don't have time. We'll have to really leave it there. There's the issue of rotational presidency between the North and the South and the 6 geopolitical zones. It helps to address
our diversity
and the issue of immunity clause.
Pardon?
The issue of immunity clause. That's another burning issue.
Immunity clause.
Yes, indeed.
I don't think we really, if things are done right, you don't need immunity clause. Because there will be less agitation, there will be less destructive politics. You wouldn't need it. But you must democratize this, real democracy. You must legitimize your constitution. You must involve the people. Except you do that, you are going. Nigeria will continue to search for political stability, and there can't be good governance.
Wale,
that is a foundation
the take home for you now is the people. It should be about the people.
People's driven democracy.
All right. Thank you so much, Olawale Okuni, human rights activist. Of course, I gather you were part of the 2014 Confab?
I attended.
Okay.
I spoke for the Pronaco, and I'm speaking for the Pronaco People's Conference, but I attended. Although I know that conference itself was appointive, and so it cannot take the place of a constituent assembly.
Well, we have to leave it there.
Thank you so much for your time, and of course your insights. The debate, of course, continues about this restructuring and the Confab 2014.